Welcome to episode 1 of the new Wingfield Edge. We're starting this little mini-series with the question that matters most. Why does Wingfield exist? Because this was never about just starting another fund. It came from years of being in real estate, lending, and business ownership, and seeing where execution makes or breaks an opportunity. I'm joined by my Vice President, Corey Lawson, today, and we are going to dive deep into how we built Wingfield Financial differently.
I'm excited to be here today, John.
Yes.
So one of the main questions I have for you, before Wingfield became a private equity firm, what problems were you seeing in the market that made you want to open up this firm and this company?
Well, there's some positives and some negatives that I saw. I had the opportunity to work with investors all over the country, several different business owners, clients of mine for various companies that I have either owned or operated in. And during that time, I noticed both some disjointedness, some lack of strategy, maybe missing an advisory or a plan, not having complete structure is probably one of the number one things that I noticed across several different situations. Again, whether they were a CEO, an investor, an investment fund, other different interactions that I had with business professionals, I would notice that there'd be some basic plans, some desires or dreams, but really not a very well thought out and definitely not even hardly written out, and especially in a way that the public could see it if they needed to. And so some of those people weren't in a situation necessarily to share it with the public. We are. That's one of the things that we do is we disclose everything, as you know. So I saw that, and then I noticed when there was cohesiveness between different people and leaders and operators, as well as businesses working together, then execution was much more possible, and there was not as many gaps or misses. When it wasn't that way, then costs increased, cost overruns. People would even tell me, oh, that doesn't work. I tried that. Almost like they tried a drink or something and it didn't taste good. When in reality, I think if they would have had a team, a strategy, a structure, and maybe had influence over more than one piece, it might have gone much better.
Do you think that your experience in lending, real estate, business ownership, how did that play a part in opening up Wingfield and choosing to do it differently?
Yeah, I guess one of the main areas I have dealt with investors and small business owners is in the real estate field. That's a large part of it. And so because of that, I learned across, hundreds of clients all across the United States and some around the world, what went well, what wasn't going well, what was tough, what did they constantly need, what would have made things better for everybody. And I'm an introspective kind of person, so I always kind of think about that for myself and also observe from others, piece together where I thought, hey, you know what? We have a consistent flow of people interested in investing that come to us for financing needs and other things of companies that we built already. And then I thought, well, why don't we help them with more than just that? And so Wingfield was birthed out of a number of things, but one of those was this idea of helping people on a more comprehensive level with an ecosystem and a scalability that makes a difference for us and for them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know there's like traditional investing, there's other traditional routes that you can go. What do you find to be frustrating about that made you open up an alternative way of investing? And what kind of opportunity did you see there?
Well, I think one of the things I noticed is stocks and securities, because I was a financial advisor for 10 years, registered and working in that environment, both in insurance and investing. And I saw how maybe there was an interaction between a customer and their advisor or an agent or something like that. Maybe there was a little bit of that at a beginning level, but then that kind of fades over time unless they have annual renewals and meetings. And essentially, that's not the whole story anyway. So I felt like it was very cold, distant, and disconnected. It's a stock and a company somewhere in the sky. Yeah, they're advertised on and talked about on the radio or TV or maybe in conversations, but you don't feel very connected. And I thought that private equity, especially the way Wingfield Financial does it, is personal. It's connected. It is something where you can belong and participate at any degree or level that you want, but at least the minimum level is you're informed, you know what's happening, and you feel connected to the energy of what that is. Whether you live locally to one of our companies or you don't, we try to make it feel as hyper local as possible because as we'll talk about in maybe some other episodes, how we communicate. And so we do think that that's important. The other thing that I feel that we do is quite different, and I know when we were setting it up, the attorneys were even questioning, are you sure you want to do that? And all the way to the last hour, they realized we were serious. Is when I was in one of my prior businesses, I was in a mutual environment, and we decided from the very beginning we would make this mutual, meaning not hierarchical, where we're at the top and everybody else has to go down somewhere else, and the people at the bottom that are paying for everything get crumbs. That's kind of the systems that are around us all the way when we were a young child, all the way growing up through any circumstances and circles that we run in. And once I found what a mutual environment was like, where everybody's in it together, we're all rowing in the same direction. Sure, we have our own roles, we have our own purposes, might even have a slightly difference in our goal, but our approach is common, our belief and trust in one another is there, and then the rewards are shared evenly here. So at Wingfield Financial, the investors get as good, if not a better deal than the owners do, and so on. So we wanted that. Those are very important to us.
Awesome. Let's switch modes here a little
Okay.
bit. So I wanted to talk about, can you walk us through the different companies that we have opened and are operating here at Wingfield as the part of our assets? Momentum Mortgage, we have Radical Restoration, Solution Providers, and Legacy Title. So we've got 4 different companies. Can you walk us through a little bit, snippet about each of those?
Okay. Interesting the way you laid it out. They're all in reverse order of how they opened, but they are different valid companies. So we started really with the title company, which stemmed from my years and years of experience of being in the mortgage lending business and realizing that the paperwork is a very important part. We have to hand it off because that's the way the system is built by the government and they demand it. But I'd like to have some influence over how that goes, the cost and fluidity. So that's the first company that we have is our title company. And then right behind that in the same month, we actually opened Solution Providers. That is a commercial mortgage brokerage that expands across the United States and lends in 40 or 44 of those states. And that helps people with investment properties. And then we decided, you know what? One of the things that we came across a lot of the time was those investors needed renovations. They like to renovate and flip for a profit or refinance and hold for rental. And so we built a construction company to help that. And now we've grown from being in 1 state to 3 states. And so that's exciting for us. We've had that for about 3 years. Those other 2 companies are about 8 years old each. And now the newest offering you mentioned first there, because of course it's a highlight, is Momentum Mortgage Group. And that is growing to be intended to be a nationwide mortgage brokerage in the United States that serves primary homes, second homes, and vacation homes.
So this is not just random, right?
Okay.
So these companies are not random.
What do you see?
They form a platform that are surrounding the real estate system, finance, construction, lending, transaction. They all belong in that real estate realm.
Right.
So this was part of a bigger picture here. Now that you've shared all those, people can kind of see that. So thanks for sharing that. But let's zoom back out a little bit and say, how does the company support the larger Wingfield platform?
I think it serves this greater solidification, interest, and stability that the investors are interested in. If you're going to take what's considered an alternative risk, of course, the government came up with that term. It's not really meaning it's really that alternative. It's not weird or anything. It's just alternative to the securities market. And so because of that, though, people, it sets them off to say, okay, is this consistent? Is this solid? Is this something I can trust in? And so we wanted to make sure that it was something you could trust in. And so what we were doing is we're building a diversified set of companies that are all part of a real estate ecosystem. They work together well with each other, and there's more to come that are on that same vein. And so that gives the investor confidence, security, stability, consistency, and certainty that, you know what, real estate's never going anywhere. They don't make more land. What they do is they just keep building on land and renovating, tearing down and rebuilding. So real estate's rock solid, and everything around it, if we own all of that, or at least a lot of it, then we have a lot of control.
Control the system.
Yeah.
So why Fund 2? So we had Fund 1, and then the three of those 4 you mentioned were opened under Fund 1.
Okay.
So why Fund 2, and why is it the first public raise? And we did that now versus for Fund 1.
Beginning, yeah. So Fund 1 was under a different code of the IRS code that allowed us to only offer that to people that we had an established relationship with. And that worked out great, wonderful. Those people have actually doubled down. Some of them have invested more than once and come back and invested again. They liked how well it was working because we've We've done what we told them we would do, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Getting those double-digit returns every year. And then on top of that, with Fund 2 then, even though that worked well with Fund 1, that was limited because how many people do you know, and how do you develop those relationships?
It was a good starting point
Right.
to validate and have the experience
Yes.
and build that confidence.
Solidified everything,
Yeah.
kind of proved the concept. And now Fund 2 is let's expand upon our success. Let's go higher, bigger, and wider, both in the companies and the size of those companies and how far they reach and how many people, but also who can get involved. We want to open it up to more people. So we changed the code that we work under in the IRS factor, and that allows us to reach a broader audience. And that's what we want to do. Bring more people in to bring in more assets and grow the company and expand. We have more funds coming behind that someday, but right now we're focused on Fund 2, and that's our next one. That's open for the next year and a half or so. So hopefully people will get involved here soon.
Yeah. So before we end the episode, I had one final question for you, John.
Okay.
So when someone finishes watching this episode,
Right.
what is the one thing that you want them to understand about Wingfield Financial?
We offer something super powerful that you can't find anywhere else. You can personally connect to us and to them, those investments, and they all work in tandem with each other, and most importantly, we care.